From Ivory Tower Populism Productions, this is video 7, which asks, what really is the primary role for government? Or why can't we just have private security? This is a follow-up to video 3. We learned about the role of government relating to public goods, where the benefit is indivisible among beneficiaries, and hence, with private goods, the benefit would be divisible. That is, public goods are non-excludable with non-rivalrous consumption. Similarly, many argue that we need government to protect our freedom. The role of government is security. Federal government does national security, local government does local policing. But we could have, and in fact do have, private security, like mall cops, as well as for some associations. These are club goods, per video 3. Now, you may say you don't like private security, but what exactly don't you like about it? Associations are sometimes referred to, quite cynically, I think, as private government. But private government just means the administration of club goods. Is that good or bad? There is a need for government in defining and protecting property lines, boundaries, both literally and figuratively. That is, property rights. My freedom ends where yours begins. I think that statement may be from Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. I want my freedom to end there. You want your freedom to begin here. We're never going to agree about that line. That has to be resolved by some governing agency. A participant in a voluntary exchange should not set the rules for that exchange. They would be self-serving. So you need some kind of governing agency that is not a private participant to establish the rules. But by extension, perhaps neither should that regulator then participate in the exchange. See video 6. Separation of regulator and participant perhaps could be as axiomatic as separation of church and state. But the left wants state to encroach on church, and the right wants church to encroach on state. The same could be said for separation of regulator and participant. The left wants the regulator to participate, government buying and selling more and more services. The right wants the participant to self-regulate, which will always be done in a self-serving way. Externalities represent a classic market failure and justify government intervention. Externalities also reflect a case of boundaries. Externalities occur in an economy when the production or consumption of a specific good impacts a third party that's not directly related to the production or consumption of that good. That is, other stakeholders are harmed or benefited involuntarily, as they were not decision makers to the transaction. To address the problem of externalities, you need to internalize them. Some governing agency probably would do this. Another market failure occurs when an organization possesses market power. To address market failure, we need to think about the ideal free market, really perfect competition, a large number of buyers and sellers with perfect information. Now, since perfect information doesn't actually exist in the real world, we can instead simply think of not having information asymmetry, which is where the holder of information would have an advantage over one not holding that information, which would increase their bargaining power. And a large number of buyers and sellers likely makes everyone price takers, so no one possesses market power over others. So if the purpose of government is to rectify market failures, then the government would address these aforementioned problems, internalize externalities, enforce equality of access to information, like fighting insider trading as an example, and discourage consolidation of buyers and sellers, maybe sometimes stopping mergers. So perhaps a more innovative role for government is, through better design, to make the assumptions of these economics theories actually hold for real. Perfect competition, so that you have many buyers and sellers with no information asymmetry. The Coase theorem, create more efficient bargaining between private property owners to internalize externalities. And the Tiebout model, encourage the efficient operation of local government, all by reducing transaction costs, internalizing externalities, and other means. I'll elaborate in forthcoming videos. So in conclusion, let me just say that a pure free market is really good at delivering value when there's a defined set of beneficiaries and they can already afford to pay for that value. If there's not a defined set of beneficiaries, like in the case of public goods or externalities, like basic research, basic education, perhaps some infrastructure if it's early stage, or the beneficiaries cannot already pay for the service, which is largely the thinking behind public education, public housing, public transportation, and so on, then we may need some role for government. And to be clear, that's almost always. Therefore, forthcoming videos will focus on how government might address the situation more effectively. And there may yet be hope for the idea of good government. And these are the references for today's sermon. See you next time.